am Sunshine. This is my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads.
Excuse me, ma'am. May I sit in the chair? May I sit in the chair? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Kelsey. This is my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I'm wearing one of my fancy booktube hats, and today I am doing my anticipated SFF releases of the second half of 2025, July through December. This is a long list. I'm going to try to get through it as fast as possible. 2 notes to make as always. First, this list is books that are on my radar as things I might be interested in based on my reading taste, things that catch my eye, but it is a resource for you. I am making no promises, no guarantees that I will read, review, recommend any of these books once they are published. Second, all publication information is subject to change at any time from the publisher. Books can be pushed back, covers can be changed, releases can be canceled. This is the information that I have right now as of putting together this list. I've got 4 books for July here, 2 on the 15th and 2 on the 22nd. The first for the 15th is The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. This is from Del Rey, and it is one of her horror releases, but Sylvia Moreno-Garcia is an author whose horror I have enjoyed before, so I am still planning on reading this. This is supposed to be a multi-generational family story with witchcraft. The second July 15th release is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Beth Durst from Bramble. This is another cozy fantasy romance. I think it's in the same world as The Spell Shop, which I own, but have not yet read. I'm not sure if you need to read these in order. They do look like companion novels as opposed to like a sequential series to me. The first book I have on July 22nd is Volatile Memory by Seth Haddon, which is a novella from Tor.com. Seth Haddon is an author I've heard of before. I've heard good things about his series of queer fantasy romances that I believe are self-published. This is science fiction though, and it's supposed to be a sapphic adventure story, and the publisher is listing this as book 1 of a duology. The other book I have for July 22nd is also science fiction, but this is YA. This is Sky on Fire by E.K. Johnston. I actually think this is maybe more space fantasy than straight up science fiction. E.K. Johnston is an author I've heard a lot about, but have never read any of her books. I think her most acclaimed books are Star Wars tie-in novels, which I'm just not interested in reading, so I've never really known what else of hers to pick up. This is set in the same universe as a previous book of hers, Etherbound, but it looks like a standalone. And this is being published by Dutton Books for Young Readers. Continuing the science fiction theme, on August 5th we have Automatic Noodle by Annalee Newitz, which I would be willing to read just based on the title alone. This is a novella from Tor.com, and it's about some robots who open a delivery noodle restaurant. Also on August 5th from DAW is the US publication of Mad Sisters of Essie by Tashan Mehta. This is a fantasy novel that looks incredibly weird, dreamlike, folklore-inspired, all things that I really love. This was originally published in 2023 in India, and I believe it has always been in English, so this is not a translation. So like, I don't think it will be eligible for the 2026 Hugos, but I'm still treating it like a new release because this is the first I've heard of it. On August 19th, we have Lessons in Magic and Disaster by Charlie Jane Anders. This is from Tor Books, and it looks like a contemporary fantasy about a woman who is a witch teaching her mother magic. Also on August 19th, also from Tor Books, is Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This is her next fairy tale influenced novel, so of course I'm going to read it. This one is billed as a dark reimagining of Snow White. Next, on August 26th is the hotly anticipated new R.F. Kuang release. The pronunciation of the title has been a bit of a subject of contention. I'm going with Katabasis. This is dark academia fantasy about 2 graduate students going to hell for their professor's soul. Rebecca Ross is an author I've been meaning to read for ages. She's got a new one coming out on September 2nd. This is Wild Reverence. Now, I personally intend to start reading with her adult books. I have a River Enchanted, and I want that to be the first book of hers that I read. This looks like it's set in the same world as her Letters of Enchantment duology, but it's a prequel, so I don't think you need to read them first. Those books are YA, and they're from the Wednesday Books imprint, which is a YA imprint. This one is from Saturday Books, which is a new adult imprint. So I don't know what section of the Barnes & Noble it's going to be shelved in, but I'm guessing it'll be in the adult section. On September 16th, we're going to have The Summer War by Naomi Novik. This is a novella, and it is from Del Rey. So look at that. Not all of the novellas are from Tor.com. The books of Novik's that I have liked when I've read them have been her fairy tale-ish novels, and this looks like a return to that type of writing. And this is about a young witch trying to lift a curse that she inadvertently placed on her brother. The next book I have on this list is middle grade, and it is Scarlet Morning by N.D. Stevenson. And contrary to what you might think, this is apparently not a graphic novel, it is a novel, though possibly an illustrated one. This is from Quill Tree Books, and it looks like a fantasy about 2 orphans and some pirates. On September 30th, we have Saltcrop by Yume Kitasei. This will be Yume Kitasei's 3rd science fiction novel, and her books always sound really interesting to me, but I haven't actually picked any of them up yet. This one looks like climate fiction with like sailing the oceans on a drowned planet. And it's from Flatiron Books, so not a genre publishing imprint. I think that's been true of her previous books as well. Also on September 30th, we have another novella that is not from Tor.com. Folks, it's true. They do exist. This is The First 1,000 Trees by Premee Mohamed from ECW Books. And this is the 3rd book in her climate fiction series that began with the annual migration of clouds. I own that one, and no, I haven't read it yet, but I do really want to read this series. Moving on to October, on October 7th, we have a novella that is from Tor.com. That is A Mouthful of Dust by Nevo. This is now the 6th book in the Singing Hills cycle. I'm a devoted reader of this series. Of course I will be reading this. It has a cat on the cover. How could I not? Also on October 7th, also from Tor.com, is Cinder House by Freya Marsk. This is one of the books on this list that most intrigues me. This is a Cinderella retelling where Cinderella is a ghost haunting the house of her stepmother. I think this is supposed to be gothic and queer and a novella. I can't wait. October 7th is clearly a big release day because this is the day we are also getting Queen Demon by Martha Wells, which may be my personal most anticipated book of the rest of the year. This is the sequel to Witch King, the 2nd book in the Rising World series, and this is from Tor Books. Interestingly, Witch King was originally from Tor.com when it was first published, so it looks like this series has hopped imprints. Also on October 7th, because it's apparently a big publishing day, is The Door on the Sea by Caskey Russell. It's from Solaris, and it looks like it's going to be the first book in a series. On October 14th, from Tor Books, we have Kill the Beast by Sarah Swift. This is another debut. It's being marketed for fans of T. Kingfisher and Naomi Novik, and the marketing here is promising that it's an original fairy tale, that it's got cozy fantasy elements and a dash of gritty adventure, and that sounds like a formula that I would like. It's about a woman who hunts fairy creatures with the goal of killing the beast that killed her brother, and it looks like she's going to have to team up with someone unexpected on her quest. Next, also on October 14th, is my 2nd middle grade book on this list, and that's The Tear Collector by R.M. Romero. I loved A Warning About Swans by this author, which was YA. I haven't read any of her middle grade yet. This one looks like a climate change story with some fantasy elements. And it's from Little Brown Books for Young Readers. Next is a short story collection that I am really excited for. I rarely get this excited for short story collections. This is The House of Illusionists and Other Stories by Vanessa Fogg, and it's coming on November 3rd from Interstellar Press. I have really loved at least 2 of Vanessa Fogg's short stories that I've read, and I've liked her novella, The Lilies of Dawn, quite a bit. She is a short story writer I specifically want to read a lot more from. I don't know what the table of contents of this book is going to be, if it's all previously published work. I don't know if anything of hers that I've read before is in it, or if it'll be all new to me. But regardless, November 3rd, very excited. Next, on November 11th, is the second new Kingfisher release of this video. And that is Snake Eater, which looks like it's going to be a contemporary fantasy, maybe a little bit horror inflected. It says it's a witty, horror-tinged fantasy. But I never really know where I stand with things that are marketed as horror-tinged fantasy, because while I do occasionally enjoy a mild horror novel, and also I do occasionally enjoy fantasy with horror elements, I very much don't read contemporary horror, even though I do read contemporary fantasy sometimes. So I really am gonna need people to read this before me and tell me what the vibe is here. Because having recently read the first two Sworn Soldier books for Hugo Awards reading purposes, I kind of feel like Kingfisher's actual horror isn't for me, but there are horror elements in some of her books that I really do like. But regardless, this is from 47 North, which is the publisher that did the trad pub release of The Seventh Bride some years ago and then hasn't published her again since then. I did really like The Seventh Bride. And then the last book on this list is just a little bit of a cheat. I usually go by American publication dates for my releases videos. This one, however, is being published on November 27th by Galance in the UK, but it's not coming out until January in the US from Erewhon. And that's The Wolf and His King by Finn Longman, which has my favorite cover art in this video. This one wins the cover art award from me. And this is a queer retelling of a 12th century French werewolf story. Excellent. Anyhow, that is it. That is my list of anticipated upcoming releases for the second half of the year. Let me know if you're also looking forward to any of these, or if you have any books of your own that you're really hyped for. I hope you're having a very nice day. That is all. Bye for now.